All right, what's going on, everybody? What is going on? How's everybody doing out there? What's going on to my protectors? Let me move around a little bit based on the lighting. All right. So, yeah, today we're going to get into the mindset when it comes to real personal protection, protecting yourself. This is more of, it's not a show you type of video. It's more talking about some things and getting you up to speed when it comes to the right mindset. All right, because things are changing out here, and I've been watching a lot of videos of real fights, and I think the mindset, well, that's something in itself. Talking about fighting will be part of the mindset discussion um, in this video. And I appreciate you guys for coming in, checking this out. Those who signed up for this free training. I appreciate y'all. And yeah, I guess I won't waste no time. We just need to get right into it, man. So we're gonna be talking about mindset. All right. This is a video on mindset training, if you will, when it comes to protecting yourself really in the real world out here. All right. So welcome to Survive and Protect. All right, let's get into it. All right, welcome back. Welcome back. If you happen to be catching this on Facebook, just be aware that this will not stay on Facebook too long. This will not be on Facebook too long. You'll be able, at a later date, this will come back to all the social media platforms. But this will only be available for maybe a month and a half to maybe 2 months, only on our Survive and Protect site. And you'll be able to click on courses and then get the free. This will be one of the free training courses. All right. So no further ado, man. Let's go into let's talk about this having a mindset. We're gonna get a little deep into this thing and go ahead and talk about it. Now I mentioned earlier about fighting, and let's start off with that. When it comes to protecting yourself out in the real world, right? Out in the real world, you know what I mean? Out here in the real world, even though I'm around a bunch of trees and stuff like that, we're around the water, see that out there, you know, we out here in the real world, right? And there is a difference between actually fighting and self-defense, if you will, or self-offense, or protecting yourself from real world attacks. All right. There is a difference. And we need to get into that mindset and start understanding that mindset, because there are a lot of videos online, and who knows, I might even been guilty of it. I might have videos out that might be discussing some things. I hope I don't, but as I evolve and start learning things and start coming to some realizations, of course, I'm going to tell you guys. So who knows, I might have video out there, and it's really, I was discussing fighting when it shouldn't been, when it should have been more self defense or self protection. And we'll kind of discuss that wording of and the mindset of regarding that as well. All right. So there's, like I said, there's been a lot of videos, and there are a lot of videos out there that are showing you fighting, going back and forth, right? there's videos showing you the back and forth between a person. They're swinging at you. You might be blocking and covering up and stuff like that, right? And that's not what really protecting yourself from an attack. Say, for instance, you walk into your car or you go into the store, someone comes behind you, or someone comes up to you, maybe because they mistaken you for somebody or they upset that you did something. Maybe you pulled into a parking space and they were going to pull there. So when you get out and you start walking into the store, they come up to you, push you, right? And hey, man, you took my spot, or they upset or something like that. You cut them off, or you might not have intentions or didn't realize you was doing it. They're upset, stuff like that. And then it all begins from there. It begins from the face to face with a person, right? The face to face with a person, right? The confrontation with the person, and you having to discuss or having to tell, hey, man, there's nothing wrong. Hey, I apologize. I'm sorry about that. And everything pops off from there. People are yelling and screaming at you, or maybe you're doing it back and forth with them. Who knows? And so that's really what the interaction starts to begin with. It doesn't start to begin with you walking up to each other and it's automatically, let's get our hands up together and let's come on, let's start fighting, right? It doesn't start off like that. It starts with some type of confrontation between two people. And then what happens from there determines whether you get into a fight or you just end up protecting yourself and taking the person out. And so, like I said, there's a lot of videos that's out there being circulated where they're teaching you stuff, and some of them even say they're discussing they're teaching you how to fight. And fighting is a back and forth. Fighting is like you in the ring. All right. Fighting is, I might throw a few punches, you throw a few punches back, I might cover up, like I mentioned earlier, right? Blocking some things. And the average everyday person, not everybody can fight. All right. No, but not everybody has fighting skill. And a lot of places, sometimes even in fighting dojos, I hate that word dojo, but fighting schools, they're teaching you how to go back and forth, or they talk that going back and forth, and they teach it and thinking that they're thinking that that's protecting yourself from a carjacking. They thinking that's somebody coming up behind you with a knife or with a gun, give me your money. They think that's a confrontation between two people, or when a person walks up to another pissed off, or they didn't just don't like you, something like that. There are two different things, fighting and self-defense, or self-offense, or self-protection, whichever words you want to choose. Fighting and self-defense are two different things. So we got to start getting our mindset right in regards to that. All right. There are two different things. Point blank, period. There are two different things. And so we need to start getting our mindset right in regards to that. You're not out here to go fight, to go do a back and forth with a person, right? That's not what it's about. It's about you going on your daily day, whether you're going to the store, you're going to work, you're going shopping, you're taking your kids to school, you're riding on public transportation, you get confronted for whatever reason, and then the confrontation starts from there. It starts from from their verbal, how you respond, what you do, how they respond to what you're doing, what they do, how you respond to what they're doing. And the whole goal of all of that is the whole goal of protecting yourself self-defense wise and not fighting wise is to stop the person from doing what they're doing to you, or sometimes even beforehand, you might have to strike first and keep the pressure going until they're completely stopped and not able to do anything to you in the first place. That's what the goal of self-defense is. Fighting, you're having a back and forth. Fighting involves um, weight classes. You got to be the same weight. When self-defense involves, you don't know who you're going to be dealing with, how big they're going to be, how little they're going to be. You just got to deal with the situation as it comes to you. So let's just get that part of it straight. Like I said, a lot of videos out there are showing you fighting skills, and not everybody's going to develop fighting skills in a short, quick time. All right, not everybody's going to do that, and you're not going to be able to take a fighting skill per se and go out there in the street and protect yourself. And most times, fighting skills only involve your hands and feet, maybe elbows, stuff like that. More like a competition type of situation. You're not even allowed to use headbutts. You're not allowed to gouge people's eyes out. You're not allowed to pull hair, right? Stuff like that. So get in the mindset of understanding the difference between fighting and self-defense. All right. Let me just pull this up here. All right. So with that, let's move on and try to get as detailed as possible with the plane flying by, but also give you enough information to try to do it in a short time. Alrighty? The plane is flying pretty slow. All right, with that being said, let's talk about this real quick. All right. Doing flashy moves compared to doing moves that's might look ugly, but they're effective, right? When it comes to protecting yourself and fighting, well, not fighting, but protecting yourself in the real world from real world attacks, it doesn't involve flashy movements. All right. You don't need to do all these flashy moves and it looking pretty and everybody can see you, because really being attacked in the real world, it can get ugly. All right. You might end up coming to the point where you just grabbing somebody by the head, you pulling their hair back, you might bite. That's another thing that you can't do in fighting. All right. But in self-defense, you might have to grab somebody by their head. You might have to grab them by their ears, pull them down in an angle some way, bite on their nose, grab your arm around their neck, put your thumb in their eyes, right? In their eyes. You know, those are not flashy moves. All right. You might just grab them, right? And then start kneeing them, right? Those are not flashy moves. So personal protection doesn't involve flash, and you shouldn't be concerned with being flashy when it comes to protecting yourself. All right. It shouldn't involve you being flashy, all these moves and all these fancy stuff like that. It don't involve that. All right. It just involves straightforward, get to business, handle business, effective moves. All right. Or techniques, some people say. All right. So that's what it should involve. It shouldn't involve anything flashy. All right. So we'll kind of leave that and go on to the next thing. All right. If something comes to mind, I'll come back to that. Now we're going to talk about defensive versus offensive. We talk a little bit about defensive versus offensive. In my humble opinion, you should not be in a defensive mode, whereas you're always waiting for the other person to do something first, and then you're responding or reacting to their action. And we can kind of get in little subtopics in regards to defensive and offensive. There's going to be times when you need to be the first one that strikes, and that can be based off of a person's actions, which can be someone standing there when they're upset with you and they're yelling and screaming and they're starting to turn sideways, right? They're starting to turn sideways because they're getting ready to hit you with something. And you can see their hand balled up and they kind of leaning back, or sometimes they'll pretend like they're talking loud and yeah, man, such and such, such and such. And they're looking the other way because that's what they get ready to set you up. They get ready to hit you with something, with a hook, right? And when you see those signs like that, you shouldn't wait for them and say, okay, I recognize the signs. They're getting ready to load up and swing on me. That's when, while they're doing that, loading up, that's when you should be doing the first attack. You should be offensive. You should be striking them, right? and not stopping until they're down and they're out. They can't move. They can't do anything further to hurt or harm you. All right. So that's something to keep in mind when it comes to defensive offensive. Also, we're also looking at a situation to where I'm over here looking at these birds, fish, those big pelican type birds. Went over there and grabbed some fish. Some fish came to the surface, and the birds went swoop down and got it. But anyway, when it comes to defensive and offensive, also you might be in a situation to where someone came up to you and they upset with you. You have no earthly idea why they upset, and it looks like you can put your hands up like, hey, what's going on? Hey, I didn't do this. And they're going, they're getting upset with you. I just seen you looking at my woman, or why'd you park in my parking space? Why'd you do that? Blah, 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 right? And so you got your hands up, but what you're really doing is you're preparing like them. But to them, you're looking meek and soft and, like you really don't want any of the business, but really it's all a setup because you're waiting for them to get within a certain range for you to attack, or for you to get for them to give you certain clues to where you might need to attack, right? So that's another situation where you're really being offensive, but you're disguising it as being defensive. All right. So start getting in that mindset of understanding that you always in offensive mode, whether you look and appear like you're being defensive and but you're really being offensive, or you see and you hear things from the person, man, I'm gonna kill you. When they hear somebody telling you that, you don't wait for them to see what they're gonna do next. They already telling you they're gonna do that. All right. That's what you hearing, that's what they're telling you. It's time to act. All right. And then in regards to that, the action reaction dynamic, you know, when a person acts, it's quicker for them to act, and then it takes time for you to react to a person. So you're going to be slower on the reaction to a person's action. Okay. Things kind of start from an action first. When they do their act, then you got to react to it. So they're in a better position. So you got to keep that in mind as well. The action reaction dynamic. And understand that. Okay. Understand that you can act quicker than they can react to it because they don't know what you're going to do. All right. Kind of like an element of surprise type of thing. You have to use that to your advantage. Element of surprise, EOS, element of surprise. You got to use those things to your advantage. All right. So get in the mind of being more offensive, even when you're looking like you're being defensive in the beginning. And then sometimes you got to be the one that does the first strike. You got to be the one that strikes first. All right. And then you continue striking and you don't stop until you are comfortable and you can tell that this person that you're striking can no longer turn around, do a reversal on you and harm you in any way. Okay. So let's make that an understanding. All right. Now, here's another thing we want to talk about here. Okay. When it comes to your mindset of protecting yourself, do you see yourself as a human weapon? All right. Do you see that your whole entire body is a weapon, right? Do you see yourself as a weapon? Okay. Do you consider yourself a human weapon? Do you consider that you got everything you need and you don't have a weapon, which actually I think we'll get into that in a little bit. But for right now, do you see yourself as a weapon? Just have your feet, your elbows, your fingers, your thumbs, your hands can do things to form into certain things. You can manipulate bodies, parts, and situations into certain ways. Um, if you use it right, some people say don't use your head. Some people say do. And some people say you can knock yourself out if you don't know how to use your head to headbutt to strike with. it's very possible that you can knock yourself out. But in the grand scheme of things, you have a weapon here. You have a weapon here. You can use this in a certain way, your chin. All right. You can use your shoulders in a certain fashion. Of course, you know your hands, your fingers can be formed in different ways, different things you can do with these here. From this, from this, from this, different things from this, different things you can form and create weapons with. Of course, you have your elbows, you have your forearms. These are weapons too, especially when it lines up with the pinky side. Supposedly, it's a stronger bone area from the pinky side of it, right? Um, you have your butt, believe it or not. In certain circumstances, you might have to use your butt, your hips, right? You, in certain circumstances, you might have to use it in a certain way to get out of situations, to open up, space things out, to strike, to push, maybe. You have that side of your hips, your butt. You have your knees. You have your shins. You have your heel of your foot. You have the flat part of your foot. And people say don't use your toes too much, but if you have shoes on and they're more steel toe to where your feet don't get damaged, and a lot of times most times people will have shoes on, I wouldn't recommend you got flip flops and stuff like that. There are always nuances to things. You do have weapons on you. All right. So do you see yourself as a human weapon? If you don't, you need to start changing your mindset and looking at yourself like, wait a minute, I do have weapons on me, even without a physical weapon that I need to grab onto, right? You do have weapons on you. It's just a matter of practicing on how you can use what you already have physically, all right? God gave everybody hands and feet, head, elbows, fingers, knees, shins. And for those who might not have certain body parts, you still have others. You might be restricted to wheelchairs, to holding a cane, crutches, but you still have parts of your body you still can use, even in those situations. All right. So, do you see yourself as a human weapon? All right. And so, with that being said, let's get into the next thing that kind of follows to this, all right, which is, do you train yourself to see weapons of opportunity? Now, me personally, I have, I don't know, can't say a bias because some people kind of use improvised weapons as a encompassing all everything. And to get real specific so you guys can grasp on to the concept of so-called improvised weapons, I would say there are two categories when it comes to that. All right. There are two categories. There are weapons of opportunity, right? And then there are improvised weapons. So let's break those down a little bit. All right. So what I have in my hand, I'm pulling it out. I have this battery pack, which is attached to the phone where I'm talking to you guys while I'm doing this video live in real time, right? And so I could take this and use this as more of an improvised weapon because it's a battery, and now I could put it in my hand and improvise it and fashion this weapon in such a way that I can now use this as a weapon or a tool. Some people say the word tool, and you can use this tool to protect yourself. All right. So now it was just a battery and I could put it in my hand. Now I can, instead of using my fist like a hammer fist, I can now fashion this thing and make this part of the hammer fist. And instead of my fist actually hitting the person, the tip of this or the edge of this or the edge of that right here, or even this whole surface is what I'll strike a person's body parts with. The head, neck, eyes, throat, in the ear, right? In the eye, in the nose, right? My chin and the person's chin, of course, fashion it in such a way we hit somebody in the throat with it. So that's more or less what I would consider an improvised weapon. Now, here's another example. I'll say here attached to the battery is the cord, the charge. Okay. Normally, this is something you either plug in the wall, charge your phone up, or plug it into a battery, and it's just that, a cord. But then I can use this maybe to put together and hit somebody with it, strike somebody with it, swing it at them, or I could take it and maybe choke somebody with it. Right? Could use it that way. Maybe I can use it as something to distract. I might put it there, and the first thing they're thinking is trying to get this off. So that's the distraction. And while they're being distracted from taking the wire, this cord off of their neck, I can let go completely and strike them with my hands and feet. So it can be a distraction type of weapon, right? So that's another example of improvising something into a weapon. Now here's another one. It's two more I'll give you guys before we go into weapons of opportunity per se. So basically, improvised weapon is something that you can go and take and you can turn it into something else. Another example would be I have socks on and then I have this battery pack, right? And I might think, well, man, somebody's looking like they're ready to attack me. I'm pretty sure it's going to happen. I'm thinking I don't have anything I can use as a weapon. Well, I can take my sock off. If I have enough time to do that, I could take my sock off, put this inside my sock, tie the sock up, and now I could swing the entire sock with this thing in it. Or I could put an apple inside of a sock, put it down to the bottom where the toes would normally be at, tie the sock up, and now I can bust somebody with it. I could put a bar of soap inside of a sock, bust somebody with it, right? Those are more on the frame of improvising a weapon. Now, weapon of opportunity can be somewhat similar to, so I figured it's still kind of different. So I'm gonna keep it like this. I'm gonna do it like this. It can seem like this was a weapon of opportunity, but you could be in a situation where I'm not around any of this stuff. This might be stuff that I happen to be around and I know, okay, I could fashion this into this real quick, or I could turn this into something. So your improvised weapons is where you're able to take something and turn it into something to help you defend yourself, protect yourself. I hate the word defend too. That's a mindset, all right? Because you kind of going off track, but we'll get back on that. Having a mindset of I gotta defend myself puts you in a disadvantage because you're always being the one that has to react to everything all the time, as opposed to having the mindset and using words like protection. You got to protect yourself, or even an offensive mindset. You're always on offense, never on defense. You constantly add a person, so they never have time to react and turn the tables on you. So you have to start reacting. All right. So also keep that in mind with words, the wording you choose to use and you choose to speak, because it can also put your mindset in a certain frame of mind. So saying defensive mindset will put you just that. I know you got a defensive mindset. I know that can always go at you first, and you just have to react to stuff all the time. So it gives me the advantage. Now, back to weapons of opportunity. You can be in a mall, right? Walking around. All of a sudden, you might notice some people that you know of, you're not friends or nothing with them. There might have been some issues in the past, and maybe you are good, but they haven't resolved it. Or sometimes, even with young folks, a lot of times you hear where girls or guys, well, a lot of times with girls, a lot more, is that they'll get in this mindset of, oh, she thinks she this, she thinks she that. And you be wondering where do they come from? Well, she thinks she all that, or she thinks she's cute or she's smart, and then all of a sudden they want to fight them just because of that. And the person never acted that way in public or around them. It's just that their insecurities, they're projecting their insecurities. Or somebody will say, somebody could be a guy or a girl can have a beef with somebody else, and they know that this guy can be, well, let's say it's me. Somebody can have a beef with a friend of mine, all right? But I don't know these people. I never had a beef with them, but they've seen me with the friend of mine. So they just happen to see me in the mall one day and say, oh, they go, dude, man, that's such and such friend. And all of a sudden they want to confront me about somebody else, about my friend. And, I haven't been around my friend each time they had dealings with my friend, but they just seen me around with them. And so, well, they can't get my friend. They want to attack me. And so at this point in time, I got to look around because it might be two or three of them, four or five of them, and I got to look around and see, are there any weapons of opportunity? Is something around that I can use right quick? And so that's what I would consider more of a weapon opportunity. It's just something you that's around you at the moment that you can either pick up, or you have to take them to the actual weapon, because some weapons might not, you can't move 'em, like a mailbox or a pole. I can't pick up a pole and just use that and start hitting them with it. A telephone pole or a light pole I can't pick up, but if they get close to me, if I lure them too close to me and I know, hey, I'm gonna stand right here, and the moment they get over here and I'm going to attack first, I'm gonna grab them, do a few strikes here, and then the telephone pole or the light pole is right here. I'm gonna start slamming their head into that. Or if we end up on the ground for whatever reason, I'm gonna use the ground as a weapon of opportunity. It just happened to be, oh, this is an opportune time. Let's use this. Or the edge of a curb. We're fighting on the ground. I'm gonna take my time to grab their head and slam it on the edge of the curb. All right. There could be, we could be in a mall and there are chairs there. At that particular time, I might have three or four people trying to get on me. Well, opportunity is to grab that chair. All right. Another opportunity might be a wild thing to do, but I might jump over the counter of one of the restaurants that's in the mall and look for a weapon right then and there. They might have some knives out. They might have some kitchen tools where they were using to, or them long forks, that you use for barbecue. They might have that in one of these restaurants. And so I grab that and I come back out there and strike them. That's a weapon of opportunity. It's just whatever's available around you at that opportune time, but that you can get to, or you can bring them to it and use to protect yourself. So that's where I make my distinctions when it comes to weapons of opportunity and improvised weapons. Improvised weapons, you might have a little more time to fashion and fix it up in such a way that you can use it because you have a little time. You have a little time. You have weapons of opportunity. You might not have that much time to figure out what I can grab, what I can use. All right. But you do, some people have weapons on them besides your hands, feet, elbows, such and such. Like I have a belt on me. You can take that off right away and use that. All right. That can be kind of a weapon of opportunity and an improvised weapon at the same time, because, time is of the essence because you need something quick. Whereas in another situation, you might have enough time to figure out something you can turn into a weapon. And so that's what I would probably say the big difference is between weapons of opportunity and improvised weapons, is that you have a certain amount of time for both. You got to be real quick to figure out what you can use right away when it comes to weapons of opportunity, because you don't have that time to tell a person or a group of people, time out, let me figure out a weapon I can grab before you jump me. You have to be able to have a mindset of being able to look around you and see what's available to you right at that moment. And having a belt on could be one of those things. Oh, I got a belt on. Let me take this off real quick. And the fashion is a weapon. So that's kind of can be both a weapon of opportunity and an improvised weapon. All right. So hopefully that should make things a little bit clearer. All right. And we're just going to move on. I'm not going to stick on that too. And we kind of discussed this one already a little bit when I was talking about consider using your whole body to protect yourself. When I was saying that, do you see yourself as a human weapon? All right. Do you see and realize you have everything on you, even without the improvised weapons, even without the weapons of opportunity, even weapons that you might carry every day on you? If you had none of that, you can use your body in such a way to where you can protect yourself. So do you have that mindset? Do you consider that you can use a lot of different parts of your body to protect yourself? All right. So we're not gonna stay on that one too long. We kind of went into detail already on that. All right. This next one is um, when it comes to protecting yourself. We're gonna let this plane go by real quick. All right. When it comes to protecting yourself, um, it should be you should be able to do simple movements and nothing that's gonna take you a lot of time, and it kind of comes into the the um, the flashy or effective mindset. All right. Simplicity is the key when it comes to protecting yourself out of the street because you don't have time to do all these flashy moves or do difficulty moves. You need to do moves that you get straight to the point. The goal is to take the person out and have them stop that they can't come back and get you, whether it's knocking them out, choking them out, putting damage on a body part to where they can't use it and it won't be able to come back after you no more. And sometimes it can end up in somebody's death because if you kill somebody, right, you are indeed don't have to worry about them having to get up and come back after you. So sometimes things can lead to that. All right. That's just being real about it. It's going to keep it real. And so the whole thing is to do moves that are simple and not difficult, not flashy. You have eyes to take out. There's different ways to affect your vision, a person's vision. There's different ways. We all know to put the fingers in our eyes, the thumbs in our eyes, and things like that. We all understand that. There's places in the back of the head you could strike, and it could very well affect the eyes. Of course, you have weapons that you could take to take out the vision, right? And then, of course, breathing, right? There's different ways to affect a person's breathing. Of course, striking the throat, you got hitting them in the liver, hitting them in the solar plexus, sometimes hitting them on the sides. All of those things can affect the person's breathing. Grabbing them by the throat, all right, choking them, doing certain chokes can affect the person's breathing. And then you have taking out a person's balance. There's a lot of ways to take out a balance. You can push them over something that they don't know what's behind them. Of course, you have trips and sweeps and throws and flips and stuff like that. That's another way to throw somebody off balance. There was something else that came to mind. Okay. Well, of course, when you strike a person, you can strike them in such a way where it throws them off balance. All right. So you have that dynamic. But it should be all these things that you do should be simple things to do and they should actually work. All right. That's another thing. Just don't be randomly doing things and they don't work. All right. And let me see. Let me see if I mentioned that here. All right. I didn't mention it here because we got two more things to go and maybe some subsets of those. But you should also know what simple moves actually to do that are very effective. We talked about flashy and effective that can take a person out, can stop a person as quick as possible. All right. And of course, you have palm strikes, you have hammer fists, you got eye gouges. You can take your finger in somebody's nose. You can take your finger and put it in and try to dig it in the eye so much to where you wrap it around the nose. There are nerves in there that does certain things, and maybe another video will discuss targets and stuff like that. As a matter of fact, we will be discussing targets in a later free training video. And you got knee strikes, elbow strikes, certain ways to use your chin on certain parts of the body. You can put your chin on somebody's eye. You can use your chin on somebody's shoulder. All right. Of course, you have shoulder strikes. You can do certain movements, but you should make them real simple and not be flashy and not be difficult. All right. Biting is very simple to do. All right, and very effective. A lot of people don't would want to get away from you if you got them wrapped up real tight and you bite in certain areas of their body. They ready to get away from you real quick. And so keep in mind about doing simple moves. All right, simple strikes, simple attacks, and not being all flashy and cool and all stuff like that. All right. And we kind of discussed this one already. What should be your goal in protecting yourself? It is always to make sure that you get home. There's a saying in the police forces, the police departments always make it home at night. All right. And so your goal should be the same thing, whatever you're doing, or to get home in the daytime, depending on what time of the day you're out and about. But that should be your goal. Your goal should always be to make it home safe. All right. And do all you can do to make sure you get home safe if you're being attacked. So a subset of that is not mentioned here. I don't have it pulled up for you to, for the screen. As a matter of fact, I wonder, I could probably pull that up there. Yeah, I can actually do that. So part of a subset of this going home at the end of the day is to never give up. All right. Never give up. Pull that up there. Never give up. No matter how, when you're fighting, I use the word fighting, I'm using that loosely. When you're protecting yourself from real world attacks, keep in mind to don't give up, don't allow them to take you out. If you have to use something mental, if you have kids, if you have elderly parents, you gotta help. You have grandparents, you gotta help. Make those things, put those images in your head and say, I'm not letting this person take me out. I have children at home. I'm not gonna let this person or people take me out. I have grandparents I got to take care of. They're elderly. Uh, I have a husband, and you might just be you and your husband, or you and your wife, or you and your girlfriend, your boyfriend. That's all you have, and that's what images you want to keep in your head. I'm not gonna let this person take me out. I got somebody to go back to. I got somebody I want to talk to, hang out. A friend of yours, real cool, a real good friend of yours of so many years. Now I'm not gonna let you take me out. I got a friend that I want to talk to later on or months down the road. So try to find some image that you can stick in your head when you out there protecting yourself, and try to keep that in mind that you got somebody you want to go back to later on, and you're not going to let this person take you out and take you away from that person you want to be with. All right. So that's kind of going back to what the goal of protecting yourself is to take the person out, get them to the point where they cannot no longer harm you, and you're able to go home. All right. You're able to go home. And so with that being said, we kind of discussed this. Are you, we talked about gouging the eyes, but are you really willing to actually do that when the time calls for it? Now, I know of plenty of cases where women have been murdered. We say women a lot because a lot of times it ends up being those type of situations, whether the woman knew the person that killed them, didn't know the person, may start off as rape and then turn into a death. And when they start doing autopsies, you might see that the woman had in her fingernails some skin from the actual rapist, a killer, attacker, and they have some of their facial skin. Then when they find the suspect, they see that the suspect has injuries to the face and is close to the eyes. And a lot of times what ends up happening, and they find out later, is that the woman was scratching on the person. And for some reason, ladies, I don't know what you're thinking, that scratching a man in the face all over is going to stop a person or get them to get off you. A lot of times that's going to piss the dude off, or even another woman. All right. You're just going to piss the person off, scratching them, and the attack is going to get worse. So while you're already in this region, Why, instead of doing all this, why not just go in? All right, why not just go in? Why not just go in? Right? Why not just put it in there and put it as far back as you can get it? Why not put it as far back as you can get it? Why not put it as far back? You're going to do all this. Might as well grab and put something as far back in that eye as you possibly can and try to scoop that person's eyeball and try to grab it from inside there and yank it out instead of doing all this superficial injury, right? Why not just do that? Is your life on the line when it comes to stuff like that, right? And so another thing that comes to mind, because this was the last thing, another thing that comes to mind in regards to that is when I looked at a lot of videos and I see a lot of these whether it's guys or girls, grown women, grown men fighting. And I see a lot with women, but you see it sometimes with men too. They're hitting in places of the body that really don't really had any real effect on them. They're able to actually continue on, and the other person is able to continue and fight still with the other person. And so you got to get into the mode of hitting targets that'll actually do some damage to the person and actually stop them from continuing. And so, again, we'll discuss that in another training video. I'm not getting into any details in regards to that. You guys will just have to sign up for the next free training video that will come out, months ahead before it actually goes on a social media platform, because our free training videos will eventually go on social media, our platforms, but we're going to put it like 2 or 3 months away from when we do these training videos on for the website. So you got to start thinking in terms of attacking vital targets of the body. Of course, eyes being one. Of course, you can use weapons on eyes. You can take sticks, knives, whatever, and really do damage, and it'll stop. I haven't seen anybody for any real attack videos, and even sports. There were some UFC fight videos where the eyes were struck, and then that automatically stopped them, discontinued them from fighting, even if they had to take 5-10 minutes to regain their vision or regain their composure back. That does damage, whether people tell you or that's true or not. There's other parts of the body that you can strike that really has some real good effects, and the liver being one, but that's always hard to get to. But if you ever get to that, that's another one that can really damage a person, and they won't really come back to. There's certain breaks. You can break certain things on people's bodies as well, which is another mindset thing. We'll kind of talk about that. Get in the mindset of striking. We talked about being simple. There are simple ways that you can actually break parts of the body that actually bend and twist, things like that. Like the neck can go in certain directions. You can actually break the wrist. You have knees. You have certain hip joints that are mobile, or parts of your side and stuff like that. Your ankles. There are simple ways that you can actually break these things. And you got to start learning not only to understand different parts of the body as far as to target, to strike that can potentially stop people from continuing to attack you, but there's ways you can break things as well. All right. So you got to keep all of those things in mind and start thinking with that type of mindset, and not think of the mindset of just, because like I said, I've seen videos where people would just a lot of times when women would just do these uppercut moves, and all the girls that's getting hit with uppercuts, they'll just go like this. But if there's a chance in between, they'll come right back up and start striking again. A lot of times they're hitting them in the side or on the back or on the little muscle areas on the back or shoulders. That's not doing anything to anybody, man. It's just distracting them that for a little bit, but the person can come right back on you again. And what's interesting, I haven't seen not one video that I can think of off the top of my head where in a real street attack that a woman would actually try to do a choke on another woman or a man. I've seen some men videos do that, but I haven't really seen that with women. And if they was really intending on protecting themselves from being harmed and they had the opportunity to do so, I don't know why they don't just bother putting the person in the chokehold and then, dealing with them that way. If there's a chance to do that, because sometimes if you're getting ganged by 2, 3, 4, 5 people, you won't have the opportunity to do that. So you got to go to other tactics, if you will. All right. Again, I'm watching this pelican or whatever this type of bird is fly out and just swoop down and grab fish out the water. It looks like it's trying to fly away. So I've seen it grab about 2 or 3 fish already. Maybe it's full. But so yeah, get into that mindset of targeting, looking for targets, disrupting targets, disrupting the eye, the sight, the breathing. Like I said, there's many ways you can affect somebody's breathing. Just putting your hand over their mouth, over their nose, striking the throat, all right? Hitting them in the solar plexus, all right? Hitting them in the ribs, hitting them in the liver, sometimes catching them right in that stomach area that's right above your belly button, but kind of maybe below or maybe right in the solar plexus area. It takes the wind out of a person. That affects people's breathing. All right, maybe the kidney strikes can do some things to folks. All right, of course, balance. You can always take somebody's balance by pushing them. You got to learn. Sometimes there's ways you can push a person at certain angles and take their balance from them, or certain ways you can pull them forward and take their balance from them. And of course, you have, tripping, flipping, sweeps, different types of throws will take somebody off balance, pushing them over objects, something simple, pushing them down a flight of stairs, takes them off their balance because they're flying down the stairs, right? That takes their balance from them. Like I said, it's all about being effective and not flashy. It ain't about being flashy and looking cute, right? So those are things to take into consideration and keep in mind, all right? So I think that's pretty much it. I think I've covered as much as I possibly can. Maybe not everything, but covered a lot. And like I said, this is more or less just to get you thinking in a different way, because the streets are not the ring. Definitely two different things. I think I did a video on that, the streets versus the ring, and where I showed either showed it or went over the UFC's rules, what they can't do. Can't pull hair, you can't eye gouge, you can't bite. There's a whole lot of other things in there. You can't pick up an object and hit somebody with it. But those are all the things that you should be doing when it comes to protecting yourself in the street. So yeah, go check out that video on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter. I think we have a Twitch channel too, and maybe Spotify. Now that Spotify is allowing video, so you can always check that. Find that video on one of those platforms. All right. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate y'all, and thank you for signing up for this training. I think the next one will be targeting. You got a part 1 and a part 2. And then if you want to catch it later on our social media platforms that I just mentioned, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Spotify, you can always go there and you'll catch it maybe a few months later if you don't sign up to get it early. All right. So again, I appreciate y'all, and I'm going to get on out of here, man. I got things to do. I gotta run some errands, but be sure to check out the listings for when the next free training is coming up, and we will see you soon, man. As I always say, remember to be aware. Be aware of what's going on around you. Be aware who's around you. All right. Watch the hands of a person. seeing what their hands are doing. Are they grabbing something? Are they getting ready to ball their fist and hit you? Get ready to pick something up, and always have a plan. So be aware, watch the hands, and have a plan. Meaning an emergency plan for many situations that you can think of. An emergency plan if you're sitting in a restaurant and you have to get out and exit. Have a plan for that. And the emergency plan, have a plan for when you're at home and maybe a home invasion occurs. A fire occurs. You're at a family's residence, a friend's residence, your significant other's residence, and you need to escape. Have a plan for that. All right. So be aware of your surroundings. Watch the hands of people, see what they're doing. Be aware of the people that are around you. Be aware of what they're up to. Watch the hands and have a plan. All right. With that being said, survive and protect. I'm going to get on out of here, man. All right. Remember to start thinking with a different mindset as far as when it comes to protecting yourself. And I'm going to get on out of here, man. All right. Peace.